My beloved child, listen closely because what I am about to share with you tonight is far from ordinary. This message has reached you for a meaningful reason. Out of countless people scrolling endlessly through their screens, somehow your eyes paused right here. That was not a coincidence. Before this message reaches its conclusion, you are going to understand why someone in your life has been acting distant, uncertain, and quiet, yet somehow unable to completely walk away from you. Do not rush past any part of this. Stay with every word because something important is waiting for you. There is a person, a very specific person, who loves you far more deeply than you may realize at this moment. They think about you when everything around them becomes still and silent. They replay your words in their mind again and again. They look for signs from you without fully admitting it to themselves. Yet there is one thing holding them back. There is one truth they are struggling to fully accept. It is connected to your appearance in some way. But before your heart fills with fear, and before your mind begins creating painful assumptions, listen carefully to every word, because the reality is much deeper than what you may first imagine. This is not about perfection. It is not about beauty standards that society constantly promotes. It is not about becoming what others expected you to be over the years. No, this reaches much deeper. It is something emotional, something hidden beneath the surface. If you have ever felt as though someone pulled away because of the way you look, understand something important. The surprising truth is that the very thing they struggle to accept is also the exact thing making them fall in love with you more deeply as time passes. Yes, that is true. Remain here, because the next few moments may completely change how you see yourself. This person notices things that most people overlook. While others notice your smile, they recognize the sadness quietly resting behind it. While others hear your laughter, they hear the weariness hidden underneath. While others glance at your appearance for only a moment and move on, this person pays attention to every detail as though it carries meaning. And that frightens them, because loving you feels dangerous to their heart. You possess a presence that gently exposes people emotionally without even trying. You make others face truths they have spent years avoiding. The feature they struggle with is not truly physical at all. It is what that feature reveals about you beneath the surface. Maybe it is the tiredness in your eyes that reflects everything you have endured. Maybe it is the way you conceal your pain behind confidence each day. Maybe it is the quiet insecurity you believe nobody notices. But they noticed it all. They noticed far more than you realize. And what they discovered affected them deeply, because they were not prepared for someone like you to enter their life unexpectedly. They had prepared themselves for temporary connections, shallow conversations, simple emotions, and predictable encounters. Then you appeared, and suddenly nothing felt simple anymore. There are evenings when this person looks at your photographs longer than they intend to. Not because they are judging you, but because they are trying to understand why your face awakens emotions they cannot easily explain. Part of them wants to move toward you without hesitation. Another part wants to protect themselves because your appearance carries honesty, authenticity, vulnerability, and sincerity. Real things often terrify people who have spent their lives hiding behind masks. Listen carefully, because this next part matters. The thing they struggle to accept is not that you are imperfect. It is that you are genuine in a world that often feels artificial. Do you understand how rare that truly is? In a world full of filters, performances, forced confidence, rehearsed smiles, and imitation love, your appearance reflects something authentic. And authenticity forces people to confront themselves honestly. That is why this connection feels so intense. That is why they draw closer and then suddenly pull away. That is why their energy seems to shift without explanation. Every time they look at you, they feel something they cannot completely control inside their heart. And what happens next may surprise you. One day, sooner than they expect, this person will stop resisting these feelings. The walls they have built around themselves, are beginning to weaken, slowly, quietly, emotionally. Before that moment arrives, something unexpected is likely to occur between the two of you. A conversation, a glance, a silence. A moment that appears small on the outside, but carries enormous significance within. When it happens, you will finally understand why they behaved the way they did all this time. They were afraid. Afraid that loving you would expose their own insecurities. Afraid that your honesty would reveal wounds they thought had already healed. Afraid that someone as genuine as you could truly see through every layer they carefully constructed. You are getting closer to the truth with every word. This person remembers details about your appearance that even you may have forgotten. The way your expression changes when you are trying not to cry. The way your eyes avoid contact when you feel hurt. The way your face softens when someone genuinely understands you. These details replay endlessly inside their mind, and they dislike how powerless it makes them feel because they always wanted to remain in control. But love does not ask permission before entering someone's heart. It arrives quietly, unexpectedly, powerfully, and now they find themselves caught between resisting you and fully embracing what they feel. But here comes the deeper revelation. The very thing they struggle to accept about your appearance is connected to a wound from their own past. You remind them of emotions they buried years ago. Not because you have done anything wrong, but because your presence awakens feelings they believed were gone forever. That is why they sometimes stare in silence. That is why they become quiet around you. That is why they occasionally seem emotionally overwhelmed in your presence. It is not rejection. It is fear mixed with undeniable affection. And the moment they finally accept this truth, everything begins changing for them. Their silence changes. Their energy changes, their actions change, because deep within themselves they already know something important. They cannot easily replace you. Nobody else carries the same energy you bring into their life. Nobody else makes them feel understood in quite the same way. Nobody else reaches their soul with such depth. Even though they are struggling now, their heart is quietly moving in your direction. There is a reason you encountered these words tonight. A reason your spirit needed to hear this message. You have spent too much time questioning your worth because of insecurities connected to appearance. Too much time believing that love belongs only to those who seem perfect on the outside. But genuine love does not begin with perfection. It begins with recognition. Recognition of something real. Recognition of something true. And this person recognizes something uncommon within you. Something memorable, something impossible to ignore. That is why they continue returning emotionally, even when they attempt to create physical distance. Your presence remains with them, in silence, in separation, in denial. And whether you fully realize it yet or not, a shift has already begun. The connection between you is slowly evolving. Something within them is changing. Something within you is changing as well. The uncertainty that once surrounded this connection is beginning to reveal deeper truths. The questions that seemed impossible to answer are gradually moving toward clarity. What once felt confusing will not remain confusing forever. The emotions they have tried to suppress continue growing stronger beneath the surface. Every attempt to ignore what they feel only seems to make those feelings more noticeable. Every effort to create distance only reminds them how much your presence matters. There are moments when they convince themselves they should move on. There are moments when they try to focus elsewhere. Yet somehow their thoughts find their way back to you again. Not because they are forcing it, not because they are choosing it, but because the connection has become impossible to ignore. The truth is that some people enter our lives and leave only memories behind. Others leave lessons, but a rare few leave a lasting imprint on the heart. You have become that kind of person for them, and that realization carries both beauty and fear. Beauty because what they feel is genuine. Fear because genuine emotions require vulnerability. For someone who has spent years protecting themselves, vulnerability can feel overwhelming. Yet no matter how carefully they try to hide from these feelings, the truth remains waiting for them. The truth is that your authenticity touches something deep within them. The truth is that your presence makes them feel understood. The truth is that your imperfections make you more human, not less lovable. And the truth is that what they see when they look at you is not weakness. It is strength. Strength that survived difficult days. Strength that continued moving forward through disappointment. Strength that learned how to smile despite carrying pain. That strength speaks to them more than they can explain. Perhaps that is why they continue watching from a distance. Perhaps that is why they continue wrestling with emotions they never expected to feel. And perhaps that is why the story between you has not reached its ending. Because some connections take time. Some hearts require time to understand what they truly feel. Some souls need time to gather the courage to choose what has been standing in front of them all along. And as these changes continue unfolding, one thing becomes increasingly clear. The qualities you once worried made you difficult to love may actually be the very qualities making you unforgettable. The things you tried to hide may be the things that touched someone's heart most deeply. The parts of yourself you questioned may be the parts that inspired someone to see you in a completely different light. So do not measure your worth by temporary doubts. Do not allow fear to define your value. Do not assume silence always means absence of feeling. Sometimes silence hides a storm of emotions. Sometimes distance hides attachment. Sometimes hesitation hides love that is still finding the courage to reveal itself. And as this chapter continues unfolding, remember this. You were never meant to become someone else in order to be loved. You were never required to be flawless. You were never expected to carry perfection. Your value has always existed exactly where authenticity lives. And the person who truly sees you is beginning to understand that more clearly with every passing day. The connection is shifting. The walls are weakening. The truth is rising. And sooner or later, what has been hidden inside the heart can no longer remain hidden forever. Their resistance is slowly weakening as time passes. Their emotions are becoming stronger each day, and very soon they will be forced to make a clear decision. Either continue avoiding what they feel, or finally admit the truth they have been resisting all along, that they love you completely and deeply. Not in spite of the thing about your appearance they struggle with, but in many ways because of it. And once that realization fully reaches them, it will become impossible for them to turn away from you again. There is something they have never spoken out loud, something they carefully hide every single time they look at you a little too long. And tonight, you are finally going to understand why. Do not skip any part of this. This person behaves normally around everyone else, calm, composed, unaffected by ordinary things. But when it comes to you, everything inside them becomes unsteady. Their thoughts grow louder, their heart becomes restless. And the most unusual part is that it all begins with one detail about your appearance that they cannot stop thinking about. Not because it pushes them away, but because it draws them in far too deeply. Every time they see you, something shifts inside them permanently. They notice things nobody else pays attention to. The softness in your expression when you pretend everything is fine, the hidden sadness behind your confidence, and the quiet emotions your appearance reveals without a single word. And that unsettles them deeply because they realize this is not ordinary attraction. It is emotional recognition at a level they were not prepared for. There are moments when this person tries to convince themselves that they can move on from you. They distract themselves with other tasks, stay busy on purpose, and engage with others to avoid thinking. But no matter what they do, every path somehow leads back to you again, and the reason is simple. Your presence carries something they cannot replace. Not fantasy, not illusion, but something real in its purest form. What truly scares people is not rejection, not distance, and not silence. It is encountering someone who reaches the deepest parts of their soul without even trying. That is exactly what happened when they met you. Your presence touched areas of them they believed no one would ever understand. And now, no matter how hard they try, they cannot escape it. There are moments when this person recalls the very first time they truly noticed you. You may have thought it was just another ordinary moment, something forgettable. But for them, it marked a turning point. In that instant, they saw something in your appearance that felt strangely familiar to their heart. A quiet sadness, a gentle strength, and an unspoken depth that stayed with them. From that moment onward, something inside them became attached to you. That is why they observe you differently from others. That is why their gaze sometimes pauses without warning. That is why their energy shifts around you without explanation. Because your presence awakens emotions they had buried long ago. And now comes the truth you need to hear most clearly. The thing they struggle to accept is not connected to flaws or imperfections. It is connected to how deeply they already care about you. If they did not feel anything, none of this would affect them so strongly. But it does. Every single day. Sometimes they even pull away because your presence feels emotionally overwhelming to them. Not in a physical sense, but in a deeply emotional way. The kind of presence that cannot be explained with logic alone. The kind that stays in the mind long after the moment has passed. The kind that returns in silence and reshapes a person from within. And very soon, something will happen between you two that will change everything. Not immediately in a dramatic way, but through something small. A moment, a glance, a message, or even a silence that carries too much meaning. And when that moment arrives, you will finally understand everything. They were never judging you. They were struggling with themselves, fighting emotions they could not fully control. Because deep inside, they already know you are unlike anyone they have ever met before. And once the mind recognizes something like that, it does not easily let go. What they secretly worry about is that you do not fully see your own worth. They notice how often you doubt yourself. They notice the insecurities you try to hide behind small smiles. They notice the moments you step back from attention because you fear misunderstanding. And every time they see that, their feelings grow even stronger. Because your humanity is what makes you unforgettable. Late at night, when everything becomes quiet, this person is left with one repeating thought. What if I lose them? That fear stays with them more than they admit. Because despite their confusion, despite their silence, and despite their emotional resistance, their heart has already chosen you. Deep down, they know it clearly. That is why your presence affects them so strongly. Not because it is lacking anything, but because it carries emotional honesty they cannot ignore. You remind them that love is not about perfection on the outside. It is about feeling understood. And somehow, you make them feel understood in a way no one else ever has. There is a reason you are reading this now. A reason this connection feels so heavy, even from a distance. Something between you is not temporary. The silence is not permanent. The confusion is not permanent either. A turning point is approaching, slowly but surely, and when it arrives, this person will no longer be able to pretend they are unaffected. They will stop hiding behind emotional walls. They will stop running from what they feel. Because some connections do not fade with time. Some people enter your life only briefly, but others enter your heart and stay there. And whether they admit it or not, you have already become unforgettable to them. That is the truth they can no longer avoid. You were never meant to hear all of this so early, but the signs have become too strong to ignore. There is someone who pays more attention to your silence than your words. Someone who appears distant on the surface, but becomes more attached to you with every passing day. And the reason behind it is finally rising to the surface. This person has tried everything to control what they feel. They told themselves it was temporary. They convinced themselves it was imagination. They tried logic, distraction, and distance. But none of it worked. Because every time they see you, everything collapses again. There is something about your presence they cannot escape emotionally, not because it disturbs them, but because it reaches them too deeply. And the truth they fear most is simple. If they fully accept how much you affect them, they may never be able to let you go. That is what they have been hiding. Every time you enter a space, they feel it instantly. Their attention shifts without effort. Their eyes find you before they even realize it. And now, no matter how much they try to deny it, the connection has already taken root too deeply to ignore. It is no longer something they can simply walk away from. It has already become part of them. Their emotions respond even before their mind has a chance to control them. And what hurts them the most is the realization that you likely have no awareness of any of this at all. You assume they are calm and composed, but inside, there is emotional chaos unfolding quietly. Do not skip this part, because the next revelation shifts everything completely. The detail they struggle to accept about your appearance is closely tied to vulnerability. It may be the softness in your eyes. It may be the tired look you carry when life becomes overwhelming. It may be the quiet sadness that hides behind your smile. Whatever it is, it makes them feel protective toward you. And that feeling frightens them more than anything else. Because once a person begins caring deeply, they also open themselves to being deeply hurt. That is why this person sometimes distances themselves without warning. It is not because their feelings have disappeared, but because their feelings have become too real for them to handle. There are moments when this person replays your conversations again and again in their mind. Not the loud or dramatic ones, but the small, unnoticed moments. The way you looked away while thinking. The way your expression shifted for a second before you hid it again. The way your face revealed emotions your words never expressed. Those subtle moments stayed with them. And no matter how much they try, they cannot forget them because your appearance communicates emotional truths that you never say out loud. And they understand every one of them more clearly than you think. That is exactly why they are struggling so much. Because they were never prepared to meet someone so emotionally genuine. Life taught them to expect temporary people, temporary attention, and temporary feelings. And then you appeared, carrying sincerity in your presence. Now their heart no longer knows how to protect itself properly. Do not skip this part. You are moving closer to the deepest truth. This person finds themselves comparing everyone to you without even realizing it. They attempt conversations with others. They try to distract themselves. But something always feels incomplete. Because nobody else carries your emotional presence. Nobody else makes silence feel meaningful in the way you do. Nobody else leaves such a lasting impression just by being present. And deep down, they already know this truth, even if they avoid admitting it. That realization is becoming harder and harder to ignore, and now comes a revelation that changes everything. The thing they struggle to accept about your appearance is actually the very thing that builds emotional trust in them. Your imperfections make you feel real to them. Your natural emotional expressions make you feel comforting. Your honesty makes you unforgettable. In a world filled with people pretending to be perfect, you feel human. You feel authentic. You feel safe. And that is why they keep returning to you emotionally, even when they try to create distance physically. Because their inner self feels calm around yours. Comment vulnerable if this message resonates with how love and appearance affect emotions deeply. This person is reaching a point where they can no longer suppress what they feel. The signs are already becoming visible. Their behavior is shifting slowly. Their attention toward you is becoming stronger. Their emotional walls are weakening step by step. And when the truth finally comes out, you will understand every confusing moment between you two. You will understand why they stared longer than expected, why they became quiet suddenly, why their energy shifted unpredictably, and why they always returned emotionally, no matter how much distance existed. It was never random. It was always love. Not surface attraction, not temporary emotion, but a deep connection they could not explain to themselves. Now they are reaching the point where hiding it feels more painful than expressing it. Do not skip this. Something significant is unfolding. This is not a story ending in distance or confusion. It is moving toward clarity, toward emotional honesty, toward the moment when this person finally stops resisting what their heart already knows. That you became important to them in a way no one else ever has. And once someone reaches that level of emotional attachment, nothing remains the same afterward. Because some people enter your life quietly, but leave permanent traces on your soul. And whether they admit it today, tomorrow, or later, one truth has already formed inside them. Loving you changed them completely. And that change cannot be undone.